This Miami Heat organization is being forced into an impossible decision. What if I told you next offseason was handicapping the Miami Heat for this offseason? I'll break down all of the moving parts, as there are a bunch of them on this episode of Heat Digest. But first, before we get to the news and information, please do remember to subscribe to the channel, as nearly 80% of you guys watching this video are not currently subscribed. We do appreciate the love and support, but now let's get to it and break down the difficult challenges and really decisions for this Miami Heat organization going forward. Now, there was a lot of optimism up to this point, really up until this video was made, at least on this channel, for this Miami Heat organization through this offseason. And the reason being is because there were a lot of names, whether in the trade conversations or in the free agency market, that could be remotely available to this Miami Heat organization this offseason. But based off these recent findings and really just the overall numbers behind everything, it seems like the Miami Heat may be handicapped to just a slight degree this offseason due to what next offseason really withholds as of currently constructed. Now, I'll break down really what that means with a few quotes and then a few graphics. So we'll start with the first quote, again, from Heat Culture on Twitter, highlighting quotes from Bleacher Report that go on to say, Bleacher Report's biggest fear for Miami this offseason, losing 2026 flexibility. And then they go on to cite a quote that says, quote, as things stand, Heat are on trade for more than $30 million in cap space in 2026. Miami needs to fight like hell to preserve that flexibility. Not only is next free agency deeper, Miami will also have more draft equity to trade. They need to view 2026 offseason as their inflection point. And that's the end of the quote. And it's very accurate, because if you go look at the numbers and if you go look at the way this Miami Heat organization is laid out for the 2026-2027 offseason, it is absolutely ridiculous. If you go to Basketball Reference and you look up, honestly, if you just look up Miami Heat payroll, it comes up. It's one of the many options that you can see. Sports Track is another one. This is the best one in my opinion, because it's just a cleaner look visually. But if you filter by the year and you filter by the amount of money being paid, there's only 7 guys under contract, or maybe 6. No, 7 guys under contract through 2026, 2027, and then following that year, there's only 2 guys on contract. And if you look at the bottom, it's a lot harder to see, but I have this graphic as well, which will show you the overall cap totals for that year for this Miami Heat organization, where things are explicitly wide open. And what do I mean by that? The cap space is north of $30 million. If you look at the tax space, it's north of $65 million. And if you look at things like first apron space as well as the second apron space, which get very, very confusing, and there's deadlines for the first and then the second deadline. There's a lot of different deadlines. There's a lot of different caps. Again, the Miami Heat being under all 4 of these is massive. The first apron, $76 million of space. The second apron, $89 million worth of space. And again, this is next offseason, not the one the Miami Heat currently find themselves in, but the following offseason. And it could be an absolute doozy, because not only do they have the money to go out there and make a difference in the offseason via free agency and having the money to go out there and spend ridiculously on big names or an ample amount of really good names rather than just going out and getting superstars. This is currently what the free agency market looks like for this season. Now, you have to look all the way to the right and see the type of contract the player may be on, whether it is a player contract, team option, player option, unrestricted free agent, restricted free agent. There's a lot of different variables. But if you see a green box that is a player option, they can either opt into a contract, they can opt out of a contract into free agency, again making them a free agent. They opt in, they remain with their team. But if you see a blue box, again, we're talking about the farthest right column here, they will be an unrestricted free agent, which means they cannot opt in, they cannot opt out. The team they are currently addressed to cannot really do anything before they get to free agency in order to bring them back. So it is going to be an open market type of scenario for those players where anyone can go out and bid on them. This is not the greatest class. Yes, you have LeBron James in a player option. You have Players like Fred VanVleet, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, as well as a bunch of others. I think the biggest name on here for the Miami Heat would be at the very bottom, the last name on the entire screen. And again, there's over 250 names. These are just the biggest ones under the biggest contracts who had the highest AAV from this past season, which is the annual average that they get per, their average dollars given to them that year. And it's Bobby Portis. I think Bobby Portis would probably be the biggest takeaway on this whole sheet. Yes, obviously a lot of names would fit in with Miami. I'm just saying Bobby Portis is a defensive-minded just screwball who's ready to go loose at any second, and he would fit in so greatly for this Miami Heat team, allow them to play a massive lineup with Bam, Portis, and possibly even Ware at 3, 4, and 5. It would be absolutely terrifying. The defense would be phenomenal. The ability to rebound would be phenomenal, and this Heat team, I think, would greatly benefit. A different conversation for a different day. We'll move on. The reason I bring this up is because of what next free agency period looks like, and the names, and the ample amount of names at that are going to be available for this Miami Heat team if they wanted to go out there and make a splash. Yes, this offseason there are a lot of names involved in the trade market, and that is entirely true. But if you can wait and you don't want to break the bank and you don't want to lose this flexibility that you worked so hard for to get at when it does come, we should say again, and yes, they are going to have to go out there and sign new players this season, but these can be 1-2 year deals, 3-year deals, small little rental little deals to get these players as basically mercenaries to come in and play for this Miami Heat organization. And if they play the right brand of basketball and establish themselves as a decent, credible team where teams just aren't looking past them, they can go out there and they can be competitive in the Eastern Conference without a shadow of a doubt. Now, the last thing we're going to highlight is another quote. This one being a bit different because it is coming from, once again, Heat culture, but they are citing someone named Keith Smith, and he goes on to say, says it could be benefit Miami to, quote, take a gap year if they strike out on big star. And where Keith Smith would go on to say, quote, they could hit the summer of 26 with 30 or 40 million in cap space with potential for more. If Heat swing a star trade this offseason that changes everything, that means this might be another down year. Miami owns their 2026 draft pick. It might not be a bad time for a gap year. The Heat could get back to work with cap space and a good pick in 2026. We've seen what Miami can do when they have the ability to be a player in free agency. This is a really good point. Not only did he bring up the fact that they are going to have cap space, more of it when they get to 2026, but also the draft compensation they are going to maintain. They own one of their 2026 first-round picks. Obviously, they do not own the second pick, but we will see how that ends up playing out because of all the moving parts. Again, you see the paragraph there of the moving parts that are involved with that second 2026 draft pick. The first one in the first one in the first round is considered Miami's. It is owned by Miami. They're going to maintain it unless they trade it away. I think Miami's in a very good spot in the sense that they have all the chips in front of them. They have a lot of options going ahead. And with that, they should go out there and attempt to be aggressive. Examine both sides of what you could do. Do you want to go out there and make a massive splash and get a bunch of guys? And if they do take that route and still fail to do so, and they can only go out and get those mercenaries, like we mentioned earlier, that are just above average players, good players at best, rather than a Kevin Durant or a Zion Williamson or one of these big-name stars to come shift the entire limelight of the Miami Heat, they could just say, F it, let's play 500 basketball next season. We're going to keep all our draft picks, and this next offseason all hell's going to break loose because Miami's going to have $30 million to spend in that offseason alone, as well as a bunch of draft compensation they could choose to move, as well as even use if the draft class shapes up to be something special. Let me know down below what you guys would do if you were the Miami Heat. Would you hold on and just try to do the mercenary thing and play 500 and get through next season? Or are you trying to absolutely buy this season and say, F it, we'll deal with next season when we get there? Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.